Hello world. Great to pick up the camera today. I'm looking forward to reading today's lesson. It seems to be the most perfect one with the light of I am entitled to miracles. And as we let, miracles replace all grievances, we are letting ourselves be brought to the point where we can recognize the problem, but then at the same time allow this problem to be solved. So we're focused on the correction today with the thought of lesson 79. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. A problem cannot be solved if you do not know what it is. Even if it is really solved already, you will still have the problem because you cannot recognize that it has been solved. This is the situation of the world. The problem of separation, which is really the only problem, has already been solved. But the solution is not yet recognized because the problem is not recognized. Everyone in this world seems to have his own special problems. Yet they are all the same and must be recognized as one if the one solution which solves them all is to be accepted. Who can see that a problem has been solved if he thinks the problem is something else? Even if he is given the answer, he cannot see its relevance. So as I pause here for a second, this is brilliant because we're being shown that there's no difference in illusions, there's no difference in problems, because there really is only one problem. And as Jesus mentioned up here already, it's the problem of separation, which is really the only problem. So in this world, we can look out into this world and see all different types of problems. You can see mental problems, disability problems, you can see attack problems, war problems, anger and hatred, and all these different types of problems, and where they might extend from, and the stories that brought upon these things. But really, those are just different variations of the one problem, and that one problem is separation. And the reason this world hasn't been able to overcome separation or the problem is because they haven't seen that the problem is separation. So today we are getting to see that there is one answer that is given to all problems. All problems. That is the position in which you find yourselves now. You have the answer, but you are still uncertain about what the problem is. A long series of different problems seems to confront you, and as one is settled, the next one and the next arise. There seems to be no end to them. There is no time in which you feel completely free of problems and at peace. So we get to see that throughout our day, we're constantly being inundated by thoughts and things to do, and things are happening, and things aren't really working out the way we want it. So it seems to be problem after problem after problem, next on to the next, on to the next. And that is okay, but that is because we have yet to see the root of all of these problems, right, from a new perspective. The temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation unsolved. The world seems to present you with a vast number of problems, each requiring a different answer. This perception places you in a position in which your problem solving must be inadequate and failure must be inevitable. No one could solve all the problems the world appears to hold. They seem to be on so many levels, in such varying forms, and with such varied content, that they confront you with an impossible situation. Dismay and depression are inevitable as you regard them. Some spring up unexpectedly, just as you think you have resolved the previous ones. Others remain unsolved under a cloud of denial and rise to haunt you from time to time, only to be hidden again, but still unsolved. Wow. So we are getting to recognize here that when we look out upon the world and believe the world to be real, then we are going to see a plethora of different problems that seem endless in sight, and that is bound to create anxiety and depression within the self. But what we are realizing here is that we have merely been seeing the reflection of our own thoughts out there. So when we realize that there is a solution to these problems, then we are given the solution to these problems. Hi, honey.
I guess I shouldn't dance naked in front of you. Right?
No, honey. All this complexity is but a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem, and therefore not to let it be resolved. When we let all of our problems be brought to the light and see that there's just one problem, it's gone at its source. It's released completely from our minds. But ego wants us to think that there's all these different problems with all these different relationships and all these different things from the past that need to be looked at and need to be solved, only to keep the moment of true healing in the future away from us. If you could recognize that your only problem is separation, no matter what form it takes, you could accept the answer because you would see its relevance. Perceiving the underlying constancy in all the problems which confront you, you would understand that you have the means to solve them all. And you would use the means because you recognize the problem. And this goes back to realizing that there is no order in difficulty in miracles. And this is why we must call upon Jesus, because Jesus has recognized this truth. But if we still have problems in our life, then it means we haven't recognized this truth, that there's no order and difficulty in miracles, and at the same time, there is no difference or order and difficulty in resolving the illusions either. Hallelujah. In our longer practice periods, we will ask what the problem is and what is the answer to it. So we're asking for both the problem and the solution, remembering from our beginning lessons that both the problem and the solution are in our minds simultaneously. So we're asking today to see both. We will not assume that we already know. We will try to free our minds of all the many different kinds of problems that we think that we have. We will try to realize that we have only one problem, which we have failed to recognize. We will ask what it is and wait for the answer. We will be told. Then we will ask for the solution to it, and we will be told. Our exercises for today will be successful to the extent to which we do not insist on defining the problem, and that's key. We need to remain in that place of not knowing and know that it is okay to not know. But ego wants to jump on the bandwagon the moment we recognize that we don't know and try and impose its own ideas, its own beliefs for what the problem is, its own ideas for what the solution can be. Drop both sides of the coin. Perhaps we will not succeed in letting all our preconceived notions go, but that is not necessary. All that is necessary is to entertain some doubt about the reality of our version of what the problems are. So now we are using denial and doubt to its highest capability, meaning doubt the illusions, doubt what we think the problem is. Because obviously what we think the problem is isn't working because we're still experiencing the problem, right? We are trying to recognize that we have been given the answer by recognizing the problem, so that the problem and the answer can be brought together and we can be at peace. This is the unifying of our minds. Recognizing the problem for what it is, seeing the problem for what it is, and then accepting the solution instantaneously in its place once we see what the problem is. And then we brought them both together as one. Peace at last. The shorter practice periods for today will not be set by time, but by need. You will see many problems today, each one calling for an answer. Our efforts will be directed toward recognizing that there is only one problem and one answer. In this recognition are all problems resolved. In this recognition, there is peace. So we're going to have problems pop up today, maybe tomorrow, whenever it might be. And as these problems pop up, we are going to use it for a practice period to recognize there's only one problem and one solution. Be not deceived by the form of problems today. Whenever any difficulty seems to rise, tell yourself quickly, let me recognize this problem so that it may be solved. Let me recognize this problem so that it may be solved. Then try to suspend all judgment about what the problem is. If possible, close your eyes for a moment and ask what it is. You will be heard and you will be answered. Amazing. And I feel that this is exactly the experience that I had the other night with the lesson I am entitled to miracles. I had to see what the problem was. I recognized what the problem was, and then I saw the solution, and the solution was given me, corrected all misperception. And so that I know this is possible for all of us to do together today. So let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. And so it is. I love you all, beautiful souls. Have a blessed day solving your problems with peace. Mwah.